Have you ever had one of those mornings where you wake up already feeling worn out, like you've run a marathon in your sleep? You glance over at your spouse, the love of your life, and you know exactly what kind of day lies ahead. There will be pills to organize, meals to prepare, maybe doctor's appointments, or just quiet moments holding their hand while they rest. And while you do it all over again in a heartbeat because that's what love and commitment mean, there's a quiet voice inside you whispering, "But what about me?" If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Caring for a spouse with a chronic illness, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes, heart disease, or something else, is one of the most loving, selfless things a person can do. But it can also be one of the most exhausting, emotionally draining, and even isolating experiences, especially as we get older ourselves. That's why today, I want to talk directly to you, not just as a caregiver, but as a human being who still matters, who still deserves health, peace, and joy. In this video, we're going to go over 6 powerful ways you can protect your own health, physically, emotionally, and mentally, while continuing to care for your partner. You don't have to sacrifice yourself completely in the process. You really don't. And you shouldn't. Let's begin with something that might surprise you. The very first thing to focus on isn't medical. It's not about diet, or exercise, or even getting more sleep, though we'll get to those later. It's this: giving yourself permission to matter. I've talked to so many people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who've said things like, "Well, I just don't have time for myself anymore," or "My health can wait, my husband needs me more." And while that may come from a place of deep love, it can slowly become dangerous. Because if you fall apart, who's going to be there for them? You matter. Your body, your mind, your heart, they need tending to, just like your spouse's needs. And one of the healthiest things you can do is to say, "Yes, I am a caregiver. But I'm also still me." That simple mindset shift is where everything begins. Now, once you've taken that step and acknowledged your own value, the next step is making space for moments of rest. I'm not talking about week-long vacations, though if you can manage that, more power to you. I'm talking about small, daily acts of pause. Even 10 minutes a day can make a world of difference. Have you ever noticed how just sitting quietly with a cup of tea, or stepping outside and feeling the sun on your skin, can change the whole rhythm of your day? Those aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. When you're constantly in go mode, your body's stress hormones stay elevated. And over time, that can raise your blood pressure, mess with your sleep, weaken your immune system, and leave you feeling drained and depressed. So carve out those 10 minutes. Maybe while your spouse is napping. Maybe while waiting in the car at the pharmacy. Breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Maybe even whisper to yourself, "I'm okay. I'm here. I matter." It might sound silly, but those words can be a gentle anchor when everything else feels chaotic. Now, let's talk about something that most caregivers don't realize until it's too late: the toll of emotional isolation. You might be around people all the time, doctors, nurses, family members, but still feel deeply alone. It's not that no one cares. It's that unless they've lived this life, it's hard for others to truly understand the quiet grief, the guilt, the exhaustion, and sometimes even the resentment that can creep in. Here's the truth: it's okay to feel all of that. You are not a bad spouse for having complex emotions. You're human. But bottling them up? That's where things get dangerous. That's where burnout begins. So what can you do? Talk. Find someone, just one person, you can open up to. It might be a trusted friend, a counselor, or even a support group for caregivers in your area or online. And if you don't feel like talking, write. Keep a journal. Let your feelings spill out onto paper. Give yourself a space that belongs to you, where you can be honest without judgment. There's something incredibly healing about being heard, about someone looking at you and saying, "Yes, I get it. That sounds hard. And you're doing an amazing job. You need that. You deserve that." Now, I know what some of you may be thinking right now, but there's no time. I'm already stretched so thin. And I get that. Truly, I do. That's why these first steps aren't about adding more to your plate. They're about taking small things off, like guilt, pressure, perfectionism, and replacing them with tiny moments of peace, connection, and self-worth. Because the truth is, when you take even a little better care of yourself, you become a stronger caregiver. Your patience lasts longer. Your energy holds up better. You're more resilient when the hard days come, and we both know they will. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not the one who's sick, I have no right to complain. But that's like being in a sinking boat with your partner and thinking only one of you needs a life jacket. The truth is, when one person in a relationship is facing a chronic illness, both lives are affected. Both bodies feel the strain. Both hearts carry the weight. And if you're not looking after yourself, you're both at greater risk of going under. That brings me to something that's often overlooked: movement. Now, I'm not about to suggest running marathons or lifting heavy weights, unless that's your thing, of course. What I'm talking about is gentle, consistent movement that keeps your body strong, your joints fluid, and your energy flowing, especially when so much of your day is spent sitting, lifting, reaching, or bending to care for someone else. A simple daily walk, even just 10 or 15 minutes, can work wonders. It helps your heart, lowers stress, supports digestion, and boosts your mood. And don't underestimate the power of stretching, especially for your back, hips, and shoulders, which often get tight from lifting or assisting your partner. You could even turn these into micro moments of calm, for example, gently stretching while your spouse watches a favorite show, or walking up and down the hallway while waiting for tea to steep. Little movements add up, and your body will thank you for it. Now let's talk about something even more fundamental: food. I know, cooking can feel like just another chore, especially when your appetite is off or your energy is low. Sometimes caregivers end up skipping meals or snacking on whatever's easiest: toast, cookies, maybe a handful of crackers here and there. But if your body is running on fumes, how can you care for anyone else? It doesn't have to be complicated. Focus on what I like to call nourishing shortcuts. A smoothie with banana, yogurt, and a spoonful of peanut butter. A hearty soup that lasts you 2 or 3 meals. Eggs with spinach. A handful of almonds and a piece of fruit. Real food, real nutrients, real fuel for your day. And don't forget hydration. Dehydration sneaks up on a lot of people over 60, especially when you're focused on someone else's needs. Try keeping a water bottle nearby, or sip on herbal tea throughout the day. It's a simple habit that makes a big difference in your clarity, energy, and even your mood. Now I want to take a moment to talk about boundaries, a word that makes some people cringe. But I don't mean shutting people out or saying no to everything. I mean creating healthy lines between what you can do, what you should do, and what's simply too much. Let's say your adult children call and ask if you can babysit the grandkids this weekend, and you already know your partner's health has been unpredictable lately. You might feel torn, you want to help, you want to be present, but you're already stretched thin. In that moment, you have every right to say something like, "I love spending time with them, but this weekend I need to focus on taking care of things at home. Let's plan for another time." Setting a boundary isn't selfish, it's smart. It protects your energy, your time, and your health. And here's the thing: when you model that kind of honesty and self-respect, you actually give others permission to do the same. It's also okay to ask for help. I know, that one's tough. But if a neighbor offers to pick up groceries, or a friend says, "Let me know if you ever need anything," take them up on it. Make a list of small tasks people can help with: dropping off a meal, walking the dog, sitting with your spouse for an hour so you can step out. Most people want to help, they just don't know how unless we tell them. Now, let's talk about connection. When you're caregiving full-time, it's so easy to lose touch with friends, hobbies, or even yourself. And I want to gently remind you, you are still you. You still deserve joy. You still deserve laughter, music, books, phone calls, cards, the smell of coffee, or the sound of birds outside your window. One woman I spoke with, whose husband has Parkinson's, told me she sets aside 20 minutes every day to paint, nothing fancy, just watercolor on paper. It's her daily reminder that she's still a creative person. Another man I know makes sure to call his best friend every Sunday morning, even if just for a quick check-in. That phone call has become a lifeline. What's one thing you love that fills your cup? Maybe it's gardening, knitting, writing, singing, listening to a favorite podcast or devotional. Whatever it is, protect it. Nurture it. It's not a luxury, it's part of your well-being. Caring for someone you love through illness is one of the greatest acts of love there is. But it doesn't mean fading away yourself. You don't have to choose between being a caregiver and being a whole person. You can be both. There's one more thing I want to talk to you about today, and that's rest. Not just sleep, although that's important too, but real rest. The kind that lets your mind slow down, your shoulders drop, and your nervous system reset. Because when you're constantly alert, worrying about medication schedules or watching for signs of distress in your spouse, your own body stays in a state of low-level emergency. Over time, that takes a serious toll. Rest doesn't always mean naps or lying down, though that helps. Sometimes it means closing your eyes for 5 quiet minutes and just breathing. It might mean sitting in the sunshine with a cup of tea. Or turning off your phone, just for a little while. It might even mean letting go of guilt, the guilt of not doing enough, even though you're already doing everything you can. Here's a truth many caregivers need to hear: you are allowed to rest, even when the person you love is still struggling. Your exhaustion won't make them better. But your strength, your calm, your clarity, your steadiness, that will make a difference. And strength only comes when we refill the well, not when we run ourselves dry. And while we're here, let me say this plainly: caregiving can be lonely. Even when people mean well, they often don't understand what it really feels like. They might see you as strong, or in control, or coping well, and not realize you're holding yourself together with duct tape some days. That's why connecting with others who do understand can be life-changing. You don't need a dozen friends, sometimes even one person who's been there can make all the difference. That could be a local support group, an online forum, a counselor, or even a neighbor who went through something similar. When you talk to someone who says, "Yes, I know exactly how that feels," something softens in your chest. You remember you're not alone. If you've never reached out before, that's okay. It's never too late to find your people. And there's no shame in needing support. In fact, it's a sign of strength. It means you're willing to invest in your own well-being, so you can keep showing up with love. Now, before we wrap up, I want to come back to you. Not the caregiver version of you, not the one who manages appointments or balances pills or does 3 loads of laundry before breakfast, but you. The you who still dreams, who still matters, who is still learning how to care for themselves, even while caring for someone else. You might not hear it often, but you're doing something remarkable. You're showing up, every day, for someone you love, and that takes courage, patience, and heart. But you're also allowed to need things. To want more energy, better sleep, less stress. You're allowed to protect your health, your mind, your spirit. And you're not alone in this. There are others walking a similar path, people who also feel overwhelmed at times, who've cried in quiet kitchens, who've smiled through exhaustion because love keeps them going. People like you. So if today you take one small step, whether that's asking for help, taking a walk, setting a boundary, calling a friend, or just sitting down and breathing deeply, that's enough. That's more than enough. Every act of care you give yourself is a gift not only to you but to the one you love, too. If this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share your experience. Tell me what's helped you. You never know, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It helps more people find it. And don't forget to subscribe. We're building a community here, one where your experience matters and your voice is valued. Thank you for being here with me. You're not alone, you're doing better than you think, and you absolutely deserve to feel strong, healthy, and supported, at any age, and especially now. Here's to you, and to living a full, meaningful life, even in the hardest seasons.